Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. Hello. Welcome back to Big Fat Five, a podcast financially supported by Big Fat Snare Drum. This week's guest is Aaron Steele. Aaron is a melting pot of creativity whose Rolodex of influences includes everything from hardcore to jazz to singer-songwriter to R&B to electronica to funk to pop and back again. Don't you dare put Aaron in a box. Aaron's resume includes Portugal the Man, Hayley Williams of Paramore, Peter Bradley Adams, Chrome Sparks, Jose James, and of course, many more. Our chat went well over 2 hours, so I consolidated it just a bit, and we'll be jumping in right as we get into the topic of comparing yourself to other players, something that Aaron does not do, before eventually dissecting the top 5, it's actually top 6, moments that shaped Aaron's style. As to be expected, Aaron's choices are not expected, and they're very impactful, and I'm really excited to dive deeper into all the artists he talks about. You can find all the songs referenced and played in this episode in a Spotify playlist. Just search for Big Fat 5 Podcast Aaron Steele. You can check the spelling in the title of this episode that you just clicked on. Please enjoy my conversation with the ever unique and talented Aaron Steele.
I don't compare myself to people. I don't compare other people to other people. As far as like musicality goes, I don't believe the thing that we do is not. You can't be an expert at being a great musician or in any creative pursuit. There's no way that can happen. You can be what I like to call a sage, a person who has like a lot of experience and history, but your journey is not going to be the same as anybody else's because it's a creative pursuit. It's art. Art is so subjective that, that anybody could tell. Like, for example, even this is a really good example. While I was in school, I was not considered one of the good drummers, I was not like in a position where like people were like really working hard to try and get me to play on their thing. But I've continued to be myself throughout the process of making music because I really couldn't do anything else. So at a certain point, people started to enjoy what I did or like not compare me to other people. I think it actually kind of just ended up that way because I was just playing with people that I really loved, and they ended up becoming popular somehow. And then that made me a valuable commodity in a very roundabout way, like it was like,
sure.
It was like, oh yeah, but then the people who would make fun of me in the past are now being like, man, you were always great. And it was like, yo, dude, like I remember, like, like revisionist history, but thanks, I appreciate it,
Yeah.
but like that, at least that's the way I kind of think about it. I'm just like, yeah, it's like some of my favorite drummers aren't drummers.
Sure.
Some of them are songwriters that just play drums on the tune, and like their feel is just like so unique to them that it kind of expresses the emotion of the subject material of the song more than any drummer who was just trying to get a groove in could ever do. So I spend so much time kind of I'm gonna be very blunt and very. I could give a fuck about the drums, honestly, to tell you the truth. Like, I could give a fuck about the drums. I'm just trying to get my point across.
Sure.
Musically, and I'm really just trying to just kind of like yes, I like drums, but it's because it was it was the easiest instrument for me to get into to get the emotional payback of like what I was putting into it. Mm-hmm. You know, you hit a drum with a stick, it's immediate. You know, if you want to play guitar, you got to learn a lot of shit before you can get to the emotion of it. But with drums, it's immediate and anybody can do it, and that's kind of what I love about it, because like people who are like some of my favorite songwriters literally can't really hold a groove ish, but what they do actually has kind of created a soundscape that really works for whatever tune they are. But that being said, I do have favorite drummers, you know,
which we'll get into. No, but I mean, yeah. I'm with you. I think a lot of drummers, myself including, a lot of times can't see the forest for the trees, and that's why I've been really self-examining what I do in the practice space. Why am I learning? Like, I've stopped doing like learn this lick, you know, because it's just then I end up using that in some song that doesn't need it because I spent 3 hours on a Friday night on it. And I've been just doing more improvisational, playing to drumless tracks and just kind of just improvising for an hour, as opposed to, and then having my technique dictate what I want it to sound like. I was talking to Dan Mayo last week about, he doesn't think of technique as technique. He thinks of techniques as sounds, you know, like a molar technique is a different sound for him. He just closes his eyes, doesn't look at what his hand's doing, but technically he is working on technique. He just doesn't express it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's definitely I definitely think that, I guess, on a subconscious level. Mm-hmm. I've kind of gotten to the point now where I barely practice now, but it's mainly because I'm practicing other things. Like, I think that everything I do outside of the drums influences the drums for me. Mm-hmm. I over the last year, I've been producing a lot, like, of albums for people and songs for people, and that is influencing my drumming so much more. Even though, like, I'll play, like, normally if I'm working on a track, I'll like play drums. The very first drum take like that I do is usually like, oh yeah, that's good enough to get the thing across. And then I would spend so much time on everything else, you know, like oh yeah, making sure that the vibe is right. Like, is the emotion, like, oh man, is that vocal whispery enough? Like, I'll, you know, do that. But then that will recontextualize what I need to do on the track. Then I'll go back, do one more take, and the drums are done. And it's because what influences what I do is the emotional connection to the tune. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. There's that.
Are your takes, when you do the initial take, have you gotten better at producing in real time when you're playing the drums? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have. But I've kind of been of that mindset for a long time, mainly because I got a lot of really, they weren't actual lessons. They were like me getting drunk with people, but what you got, like, people have said some like really big and important things to me kind of early in my career and like drinking situation. One of which, weirdly, it's funny, I think he'll think this hilarious if he heard this now, but Sean Pelton, like, I used to hate his playing so much.
Okay.
Like, so much. It was I didn't get it. But then one day it kind of just made sense to me. I would see him often. Like, he used to play at Rockwood all the time, Rockwood Music Hall in New York, all the time with this guy Teddy Kumpel, who's sort of a mentor of mine, and who's like a super out guitarist. It's definitely like he's definitely a special dude. If anybody checks out his music, just check it out. But Pelton played in his band a bunch, and I finally got it after like weeks of watching him play this gig. And then we got to talking, and one thing that he told me, and it blew my mind forever. It was literally like, he said that when he plays with a singer, he tries to play as little bass drum notes as possible because it takes up too much space and it distracts from the vocal. It's like, that was just something that he just like dropped out there. And it wasn't something that he wasn't trying to drop knowledge on me. It was just something that he said. And I was just like, put that in my brain. And then, you know, like, I was like, all right, moving forward, let's try this out, see if it's cool. And then another person who said something to me was, I don't know if you know who Mark Stepro is.
I do. I was actually just talking to him. Yeah.
Oh, sick. Yeah. He like told me a long time ago, he said like, and actually I just hit him up like maybe like a month ago about this because I don't think he remembered, but he literally told me like that, like one day, just like, he was like, yeah, man, you know, like everybody's playing all this stuff, you know, like I can't do that. And I don't think I want to do that. So like all I can do is just like make stuff feel as good as possible. And you know, serve the song as much as I can. And I was just like, okay. And, you know, like 20-year-old me is like, I was like, that's so fucking deep. you know?
Start crying, you just hug him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I probably did because I was a little drunk, but I hug everyone. So
sure.
In general, COVID's been hard.
Yeah. No, Mark actually shared a space with Matt Johnson for a while.
Yeah.
And I took a few lessons with Matt, and yeah, he kind of had a similar thing where he's like, the notes you play the most of should be the quietest. So the hi-hats should be the quietest, the bass drum should be the loudest. If you're just in the room, you know, and mixing yourself, that's a good bass line. And even something that simple is like, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, I mean, like, you know, like, whenever he said anything to me at that time, especially, you know, like he's not someone who would garner a bunch of praise in Modern Drummer, not to knock on Modern Drummer. I don't have a problem with them at all. But, you know, like they wouldn't, because it's just not sexy to be, it's not sexy to be so into the music that you let go of yourself as the star drummer. You know, it's like really important. Like you know, like for as much as like credit that I'm getting now for things, like there are 8,000 people out there that like have like paved the way for me to do the thing that I do. And it's literally, and like I have no, like sometimes I'm just like, I don't know why you're talking to me. You should be talking to Mark, or you should be talking to, you know, like that's how I think of things, mainly because that, like, you know, like they're the people who built who I am musically, you know? Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But
when you feel overwhelmed and unfocused, you know, when it comes to studio work or just having way too much on your plate, what do you do to get out of that and refocus and not be so overwhelmed?
Ooh, that's hard. I get overwhelmed and unfocused a lot because I have very severe ADD.
Yeah.
And it's something that I actually just found out pretty recently. So I've been privileged in the sense that because my life pre-COVID was so chaotic, it actually balanced me out. So like I would be flying from one city to the other, going across the country for like going to another country for like 3 days, coming back. Like that was my life pretty regularly. And then whenever I didn't, you know, if I was just at home and I had to like get a bunch of stuff done, like I did in early COVID, like I was losing my mind. I couldn't, you know, balance myself out. But honestly, the thing that really does it for me, and it's really hard in times like this, is I literally just go out with a friend and just talk about anything else that has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Sure.
And then that allows me space away. I just take space away. Mm-hmm. That's from whatever it is that I have to do in order to just like completely forget about it. At least for a day, maybe an hour, like just some time that I've completely forgotten about what I have to do. And then when I get back to it, like I'm able to focus in order to do it. But I'm also privileged that I often don't work on things that I don't like. I've worked really hard in my life and career in order to get calls for various amount of different things, or to make various amount of different things that just square with what I like,
Yeah.
And that in turn helps me stay focused on mostly everything I do. Mostly. I mean, there are moments, I'm a spaz.
Yeah, well, we all are, yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, you definitely deserve it, so I'm happy you've gotten to that place.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, it's weird, but and that scratching you hear is me using a back scratcher on my back, just so you know. It's
Thanks. You're ruining the whole show.
I know, that's the vibe.
All right, well, let's just jump into your, for the sake of time, because I know you're being very generous with your time right now. Let's just jump into your top 5. And you actually gave me, I believe, 6. This is the Big Fat 6 today. But so when I reach out to guests, I usually sometimes suggest a few things kind of to get the ball rolling. And this was one that you put under grooves that change the way you think about music. And you put Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie. Were you talking about the song or just the overall record?
Oh, the song.
Okay, sweet.
I mean, the overall record, yes, but the song really fucked me up for a while.
Sure.
Like a good while. It was, I mean, if you ask like anybody who knew me at that time, well, at the time that I heard it a few years after it came out. But it was pretty instrumental in my life because the fact that he was just playing, eighth notes, or I mean, depending on how you count.
Sure.
I was like, oh, quarter notes.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was playing something so simple and it was like adding to the emotional depth of the song the whole time. Mm-hmm. I literally played every gig for the next year and a half trying to make every note just a quarter note or an eighth note. Like never like I have a good friend, Kyle McCammon. He's a bass player and producer in LA.
I love Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he literally, he was with me throughout basically every gig that I played. I was just like, all right, let's just fucking do only like every note I play is just going to be a quarter note or it's going to be like an eighth note. So like kick, snare, floor tom, snare, like it's like, like I was working so hard. How do I make that musical? Because like as much space is so important, and that record, it wasn't the thing that showed me that, but it was like the thing that got me so into it that I wanted to dedicate like a lot of time to that. And thanks, Jason. I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, of course, Jason McGurr on drums. Have you become friendly with Jason?
Yeah, we both. We met because we both played on I used to be in this band called Fences. Long story there, but but we both played on the second album by said Fences, and we met while I was making the rest of the record with Chris Walla, who was previously of Death Cab. And he was the producer on like half of the record. And Mark Giuliano was doing a clinic in Seattle where I was. Like I texted Mark, I was like, yo, you're in town. I was like, we went with Greg Keplinger. Me, Jason, Greg Keplinger, But we all went to see Mark do his clinic, and that's where me and Jason got, like, we met, and then we've been friends kind of since. And it's crazy to me because, like, I had to tell him one day and just be like, dude, you changed my life,
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to meet the drummers that I've been able to do that. There's Matt Chamberlain. I've told this story on the podcast. Matt Chamberlain goes to my gym in LA. But
sick.
I haven't had the guts to walk. I mean, like, you don't walk up to someone at the gym, like when he's putting weights down, and
yeah, exactly.
But I want to be like, hey, you're cool, and then just like run away, But
dude, I did that to Brian Blade. It was really
well,
funny.
there you go. How do you react?
Okay. There needs to be a little setup to this.
Good.
I was playing at SF Jazz with Chris Bowers, who now is Academy Award winning Chris Bowers, was just so out because he scored Green Book, and he's doing Space Jam right now. He's up for an Oscar right now because Ava DuVernay made a short film about him and his grandfather. It's like a whole thing. Anyway,
that's sick.
But I was playing with him. We were playing in a small room, and in the big room, rest in peace, Chick Corea was playing with Brian Blade and Christian McBride. And at SF Jazz, there's a shared green room, basically. And we were all they were all having dinner. We were having dinner, and I had met Chick before because a friend of mine had played with him on and off, and Christian I had met maybe once or twice, but I'd never met Blade at that point, and he's a really big one for me. And it was one of the few times I've ever been starstruck in my life. And anyway, I didn't talk to him at all, and then I got into the elevator, and then he got into the elevator, and I was like, all right, here's my shot. And I was like, hey, sir, Mr. Blade, thank you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it. You've changed my life. And I tried to walk out of the elevator, but it got stuck.
Of course, yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, super awkward. And he was just like, hey, man, what's up? I'm Brian. Nice to meet you, man. And he just started talking to me. And I was like, I just couldn't deal. Anyway, then I had to play my set. And then I saw him in the back come in and just start listening. And I was just like, dude, this is intense. Because it was also the first time that I had played quote unquote jazz in years. So, and I was playing at SF Jazz with somebody who I consider one of the best jazz pianists currently. So like it was scary for me. And then afterwards, he was like, man, you sound great, blah, blah. He started talking, whatever. But it was one of those things where it kind of blew my mind, and I ran away from him straight into a door. That's basically what happened. But
yeah, well, I would say hi to Matt, and then he would see me struggle with a 10-pound weight, and that would be my story.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna avoid that at all costs. But so I will segue into the Brian Blade, one of your picks. But let's just play Transatlanticism.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of it, which is half the song is again just Jason just kind of doing what you were talking about. So I'll just start it. I didn't know if you were going to talk about that part or kind of the, subway kind of echoey thing at the beginning. They're both cool. I mean, everything Jason does in that record's amazing.
Dude, that thing in the beginning. I mean, that like I said, that record has been highly influential in me. That song has very much influenced the way I play in general. But even though you probably wouldn't even really hear that, but
yeah. But all right, well, let's segue into this is out of order. I'm not sure if you gave it to me in any particular order, but let's just
Doesn't
go.
matter.
Okay, this is Overshadow Hill Way by Wayne Shorter, and this is from the record Beyond the Sound Barrier from 2005. And yeah,
Oh my God.
it's Brian Blade on drums. So let me just, since we already kind of started talking about Brian, I'll play the section of the song that you were referencing. So it's going into the solo section, around 2 minutes, and then we'll talk some more about Mr. Blade.
Best part is when he starts to lay out.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's crazy how good it is. Actually, just let it play
Sure.
until he. I mean, dude, he's not doing much, but he's speaking. That's what it is.
To play with that much intention and have that low level of dynamics is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a moment when the piano comes in. It happens after this section. It's coming up right now.
So sick.
That right there, that one thing too. God. So disgusting. You can't see it, but my face is making crazy faces right now. But like that moment, that whole section, that, you know, like that whole, everything we just listened to, like hugely changed my life. Like the first time I heard it, because like, I didn't understand. I understood what improvisation was, but I didn't understand until I heard that. Because like, that's a tune that I know, but they were like vaguely quoting it and like kind of expanding upon it. And then like the way, the space that Blade was using in that, like, and then they're just like throwing in rhythms in order to express whatever he was expressing. You could hear him grunting throughout the whole thing. Yeah. Like all of that just shows me that he meant everything he was playing. And that's, you coined it earlier. Intention is everything. It's everything. Like if you're just playing on default, people will hear it. You know, if you intend to care, if you're playing because you care about what you're doing, and you're playing notes because you really want to make the music better, and because you're trying to just like do the best thing for everyone involved and emotionally for yourself on top of that, that all matters, and it gets transferred through what you're doing. Like it, and I don't care if it's a recording, I don't care if it's a pop tune, I don't care if it's a whatever. Like if you are doing it with the intention of being true to yourself and to the music, it's always going to translate. It's always going to, yeah, man, I'm sorry like to go on that tangent, but that's like,
No, you could watch Brian on mute and having never heard him play, and you'd be like, oh, I bet that guy's killing it right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, actually a really good moment. I'm pretty good friends with John Coward, who's like, who's in the fellowship with Blade. And slightly after the SF Jazz story that I told you, like, I was in New York, working on a record with somebody, and I just happened to be like, in town, and I like hit up John. I was like, yo, let's go grab a drink or something. He was like, actually, like, hey man, I'm in the studio right now, but you should just come over. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, man. And I went over, and he was working on like a record, a record with Blade, Tony Scher, Steve Cardenas, and himself, yeah. And anyway, but I came in like mid take, and it was like maybe like one of the most amazing things that I ever heard. And then nobody else was there like visiting. I was just like, what is going on? And then everybody, they finished the take. They were coming in. The take was playing over the speakers. Everybody else was ordering Thai food, but Blade was like listening as intently as possible and like dancing around the room, just being like completely immersed in the music, completely. And until the take was done, and then he turned around and was like, guys, I think that one's it. And everybody was just like writing down their orders, you know? Like, not to say that they weren't like in the music while they were playing it, but he's like so in it that he can't do anything else until he expresses whatever he needs to express about the music. It's actually like so deep. Sorry.
Maybe they just trust him enough. They're like, we know that Brian's listening, and so we're gonna order Thai food. If Brian says it's okay, it's a good take.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably true.
Did he recognize you? Did you guys, hey, I was the guy from the elevator?
Yeah, he did. He's a very present human being. That is, I aspire to be that way. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget, not people, but I forget names. And like he, at least in that experience, he didn't forget my name. He like remembered, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, that being said, like, that was definitely like a special, that was a masterclass in intention. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
Oof. So deep. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, just for the sake of time, I mean, I don't ever want to cut people off on like talking about these things, but let's just move on if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Totally
so we'll just go to Hold Tight by the band Change. Yeah. And the album's Miracles from 1981. And that is a drummer I've never heard of, so I'm excited to talk about him. But Terry Silverlight is on drums.
I got Major Stank Face over here.
This is a good record. God, those vocals are so clean.
So good.
Hold tight. Hold tight. Don't let this moment fade away. Hold tight. Now tears gonna stay. Everybody gets the chance someday. All at once at last you think you've got it made. Not a word that anyone can say.
That record messed me up. Cause man, Terry Silverlight. And the funny thing is that like I haven't really dug into his stuff. But this record specifically, like the music that the scene that I kind of came up in, besides like the songwriter scene in New York, was kind of like that new disco, like Holy Ghost, like LCD Sound System, St. Lucia, like those bands. Twin Shadow, like, like that weird indie dance stuff, and everyone was a DJ, like literally everyone. And when I heard this record, my homie Russell was DJing somewhere, a great artist named Rush Midnight. He was DJing somewhere and he played this track, and he played this, basically he played the whole, like there's like it's like a short record. It's kind of long because it's like every song's like 12 minutes long, but he played every track on this record in that DJ set at some point, and every song was just like a banger. And it like, actually I got like that's a big, like that, and a lesson that I had with Gadsden years and years ago are like the reason why I play hi-hats the way that I do. It's like, sort of like that weird syncopated kind of like, it's like moving around in between beats with the kit, but it's still like so pocketed. It's disgusting.
So you actually took a lesson with Gadsden?
Yeah, like a long time ago. I can't even. It was definitely like a decade ago, maybe more.
Was it at his space in LA?
Mm-hmm. It was like I came to LA to work on some stuff, and I was like really deep into Gadsden at the time, and still am. And he like. And I saw, I hit him up on Facebook like everybody can, which is hilarious. And I asked him if I could take a lesson, and I did. And the one thing that I took away from it was like, you just got to make that hi-hat dance. And I was like, all right.
That's a good impression of him, actually.
Yeah. I was like, all right, dude. Yeah. Like, you're right. I didn't get it for a second, but then what you got? I got it a little later, and I'm still digging through that stuff.
Yeah, "Kissin' My Love" is that kind of swung, not swung 16th note. It still gets me every time.
Dude, I was 2019 touring with Jose James, and we were playing the music of Bill Withers on that tour, and I had to play that groove all the time, and I was just like, still doesn't sound as good as James. And that's the only person I'll like compare myself with, because I'm playing his groove on that song. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only time where I'll be like, that's a comparison, because it's valid in that sense, 'Cause like he perfected it before anybody knew it was perfect. It's like crazy.
Yeah, I had him on the show a few months ago, and I was trying to get geeky with him and his hi-hat technique, and just in perfect fashion of like the legends, he was just so, you just got to loosen up, man, make it feel good. It's like,
exactly,
okay,
yeah.
I'm not going to get anything more from you, and then I shouldn't, because that's the answer.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Don't overthink it. Yeah, he was like, just got to make that hi-hat dance. It's like, all right. Yeah. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, seriously though.
Yeah. I mean, he's a singer. So like that's where that stuff comes from. Yeah. Anyway.
I didn't mean to hijack Terry Silverlight's drumming, but it was
no. I mean, Terry. I mean, the thing is that like like he's incredible. Like that record is. I mean, I think he was like 19 when he played on that record. Like I looked it up at the time. I was like, who is playing on this? And then that Change is also Luther Vandross's first group. So that's Luther Vandross is in there. Doing the lead stuff whenever it's not the female lead.
That makes sense, because I was like, why have I not heard this record? I mean, these people that are working on it are amazing, so it makes sense that, all right, there was someone that I would know that was a part of that.
Yeah.
All right, so number 4. It's Flake, in parentheses, by James Zhu, and can you pronounce this?
Metropole Orchestre.
Okay, there you go. Off the album Melkweg from 2019. And you said when the strings and bass come back in at about 6:20 to the end.
Yeah. Sorry, not much drums in here.
No, again, this is kind of what whatever inspires you, man. This is what I want you to talk about. So that's so cool, man.
I still there's a couple things in there that I steal pretty often. So like, how now I'm gonna get like sort of I mean, I don't count anything. So, so like, you know how like once the stuff is like everything's in, the groove is kind of like boom, tigga-doom, bigga-doom, tigga-doom, tigga-boom, tigga-boom, bigga-boom. Yeah, that's happening. The percussion in the background is doing. Just like as like a repeating hemiola or whatever pattern over it. Like I do that stuff all the time since like I heard the original version of this track, which is not with the orchestra, but it's literally just like a gloop, bloop, 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 over. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Can one of the listeners please sample what Aaron's doing right now and send it to me?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. But yeah, man. Woo. And what you got, Jules Buckley, who's doing the arrangements on that. He is woo. That's, man. I've only met him once, but that was crazy. Like but honestly, like James Zoo is one of my favorite producers. He'll like make a full track without any with basically it sounds like he made an entire track and then pulled everything out of it. You know, it's like except for like the thing that he's trying to focus on.
Sure.
It's so good. He's so good.
I should get him on the show.
Oh man, I wish. Like I think he's in Sweden. I'm not sure, but he's incredible.
I've never heard of him before this, so I'm really excited to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good, man. So good.
Yeah. The end of that's very, very classic sounding, but then that synth makes it super contemporary and futuristic. That's creating that pulse. It's a cool blend of a lot of different vibes.
Check out his. He has a YouTube video from this magazine called Fact Mag. His Against the Clock. Yeah, where they have producers like create a track in 10 minutes. His is incredible. It's like changed the way I think about making decisions. Like he's just like does stuff. And it's always sick. Even if you think it's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen here. Oh, man, that sounds a little weird. And then at the end, it just comes together. It's like, what just happened? Yeah, anyway, yeah, it's incredible. Anyway.
No, I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put that video. Yeah, that's sick. No, I love that series. Because I mean, they were so prolific with that. And I only know 2% of the names. And so sometimes I'll just randomly click on, this, whatever.
Exactly.
So that's sick. James Zoo.
Yeah, so good.
All right, so let's go back to Chico Hamilton. So the song's El Moors by Chico Hamilton off the album El Chico from 1965. And let me just play it and then we'll talk about it. Starts off with a melody on the drums. That's sick.
Yeah.
Of course, I have no idea where the one is.
Actually, I don't either, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, it is okay.
Doing the percussion on that track is like him and Chico together. They kind of have like this really beautiful language together. It's like it's really hard. It's yeah, I don't know. That shit just hits me in the soul. Yeah, Chico. Like I have like I went to the New School in Manhattan, and he was one of my teachers there.
Oh.
And I didn't realize I mean, like we had a really good relationship actually, and he was always just trying to get me to like, I don't know, try harder. And I was just having like a really rough time in school, and you know, even when I dropped out of school, he was like, hey man, like, you know, we could try and figure something out. Like, come on, you don't have to leave, you know, that sort of thing. So like, I didn't realize, and you know, at the time, you know, like I knew who he was. I knew he was like a person that was, you know, like really influential in like the jazz scene, especially at the time. He was the first person to have like a cello in his small group, and you know, he wrote all these kind of like semi-orchestral pieces, very influenced by like classical music. He's the concert tom man. He's like I don't know if you know, I think he's like one of the first dudes to do concert toms, because he just didn't want to get new drum heads, so he would just switch them out from the bottom. Like when he told me that, it was hilarious. But
smart
then
man.
Yeah, dude, he's very smart. Yeah, and then you know, like I didn't understand how deep he was until like way after he passed, you know, and like I found out like years later, like, you know, like he passed away. I heard about it like maybe like a couple months later, but I didn't, like I went back and looked, and he passed away on my birthday. You know, like it was like, you know, it's like one of those things where I'm like, dude, like, you know, like he's had such a big influence on my life.
Yeah.
But even more of an influence after he's passed away, because I've just been like, when he passed away, I just started digging into all his music and being like, oh man, you literally were doing something that nobody's really ever done, and then you have just like been this crazy innovator within a style of music that was already full of innovators at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And then also like, you know, he was like Sarah Vaughan's drummer forever, you know, like, so like he knew how to play with a singer, like all that stuff, you know, even how he talked about swing. Like one of my favorite things, he was like, you know, you just got to make that groove and just make it shop baba dop. And I was like, at the time I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you know, 18-year-old you is just like, this old dude doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'm paying a lot of money for Shop Baba Dop.
Exactly. But then like I'm still working on most of the things that he's told me, like in any of our lessons, and like just like in private conversations, I'm still working on, actually I'm working on it more now. I like forgot about most of it until maybe a few years ago, you know? But yeah, I kind of implore anybody, like not only as a drummer, but composer, and just like he's so deep. It's crazy.
What was the class he taught at school?
He just taught, like, my first class with him was basic rhythm. You know, it was like, you know, it was just like, yeah, because like, you know, before I was in school, I didn't do anything school related with music. It was just like, oh yeah, I grew up sort of in church. Not in the same way as a lot of other people. My family's from Panama. My parents are Spanish Pentecostal pastors, so it's not like gospel stuff. It's like kind of like Afro-Caribbean music. It's different. And then I grew up playing in church that way, and then like played in a hardcore screamo whatever band, and then went to school for jazz after taking like 4 lessons with Ari Honig. You know, it's like so I didn't have the same language as most of the people that I went to school who, like, by that point had been in jazz band for like most of their high school lives, you know? And especially, and for me, I definitely wasn't that in that zone, even though like I had grown up like going to Smalls and checking out like Eric McPherson play and whatever, because I grew up in New York, so like I had access to all that stuff. But I definitely was trying to be more of a fucking hardcore kid than I was trying to be. I was trying to, straight edge, give me my X's on my arms, you know. But
yeah.
But yeah, weirdly, you know, thinking about it now, I'm just like, oh yeah, like did I? Like my life would have taken a crazy different trajectory had my band not broken up, and had I not met Chico, you know, or had I not met Rachel Z, who like when I quit school, like begged me to come back and like keep playing music after like I sold all my instruments. It's like stuff like that. It's like I would still be on Warped Tour now, even though that's like not necessarily a bad thing. Like what you got? I recently played on Hayley Williams' record, and that was one of my favorite recording experiences that I've ever had. That has nothing to do with, I wouldn't have been able to be on that record if I didn't step away from that world. Hayley, I love her, and I love Taylor, who produced the record. I love everyone who's on the record. And actually, the funny thing is that, like, me making that record is kind of what built out my Nashville friend circle.
Oh, awesome.
Because before that, I was like, I live in this place. I don't know anybody. Everything's kind of weird, but I'm really happy to live here. And then I made that record, and basically all my really close friends are from making that album. In some sort of way,
Yeah, all the friends in my life that are like my ride or dies are musicians. Once you're in the trenches with someone,
oh yeah,
and you're both having the red light syndrome, and you look over at each other, you're like, are we friends for life now? I think we are.
Joey, the bass player on that record, is like we are inseparable.
Dude, he is. So is he the one who was playing on Hayley's Tiny Desk series?
Yeah.
He is an insane bass player. Oh my God.
He's so good. Yeah. But he played on that record, and he wrote most of those songs with her too. So
that makes sense. That guy's damn.
So good. Like, man, like you can hear, like, goes back to my intention thing. Like, you can hear his intention. You could hear him, like you could hear the way that he dances in the way that he plays bass. Like, you may not be able to visualize it, but like once you see it, you're just like, oh yeah, that's that dude. That's the dude who's playing bass. Like,
sure.
So good. His personality comes through. I love it.
That's sick. Yeah, I'll also drop that in the show notes, the Tiny Desk series that Hayley put out earlier this year.
Sick.
So going back to Chico real quick, it is when you have someone who is so talented but can also communicate well as a teacher, because that's few and far between.
Yeah, that's a big rarity. I don't like I haven't had I've taken lessons with quite a bit of people, but like I haven't had somebody who, Chico's definitely one of them, that like I really go back to what they have told me constantly in my life. Like the people that there are more people that I've just like met randomly, like i.e. Mark Stepro or like Pelton, that I never took lessons with. They were just like people who I was just hanging out with, who I admired, and they said something, they just dropped something. But what you got, Chico is definitely like one of those people that he could totally express what the thing that he wanted you to know what it was. Like he had a way of teaching that was just it was never like you're doing it wrong. He was just like, in time you'll figure it out. That was in for the fact that somebody who's that legendary and me not realize it at the time, but that person who's like super legendary and then like not, and that person believe in me is like, that's crazy to me, because he's seen everything,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that impression and that memory of him was juxtaposed with your experience with school that you've talked about, where they basically were just like, we don't invest in people that we don't see happening. And to have that being told from the administrators, but then Chico is just believes in you so much and seems like such an amazing mentor, that must have been like a mind fuck.
Yeah, it really didn't make any sense to me. And also, like, I don't think anybody should ever have their school tell them that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
Because like that creates long-term trauma in a lot of people. I mean, I know it did for me, but that being said, like what you got, like if it wasn't for me leaving school, if it wasn't for like my experience with Chico at the time, and however brief it was, And if it wasn't for like all my experiences that happened after that, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be the person who I am now, which I'm very grateful to be. So like, you know, not to say that I'm like the best, I'm not hot shit or anything, but it's more of like, man, I'm really proud of where I came from. I never would have thought I am where I am now. I didn't, I mean, you know, like I didn't, the fact that like I get to play music with people who I think are incredible, plus some people who have been heroes and now are like really good friends, and that I get to just like call up like people who have influenced me more than anything. The fact that I can do that, I never, if you told 12-year-old Aaron that he was going to be living I'm going to own a house in Nashville and tour the world with artists from various musical backgrounds, I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? Come on, man. You know, like I'm never leaving the block, you know, like it's fine, you know, but I'm so grateful for everything that has happened, and including the school being shitty because like I wouldn't have been here if that didn't happen.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, there's a question that I often ask, and it's like a favorite failure, but it seems that like you've had a bunch of favorite failures that as long as you continue, just keep trudging forward with honesty and integrity for your instrument, things are always going to work out. For the most part, I don't want to blanket a bunch of.
I mean, you know, I was
you can also get hit by a car, but you know.
Yeah. I was having a conversation recently with a friend of mine who I won't mention, but he has a band, and, you know, whatever. And there was a moment that we're really close now, and he was telling me how like there was a moment where I was gonna be in the band, and then I did the auditions. I didn't end up in the band. And I was all butthurt about it. And then, you know, years later, we're talking on the phone, and he's like, and I work on stuff with him and the band often in the studio. And he told me, he's like, man, I don't look at you as a drummer. I look at you as like a weird musical creature. And you probably would have been stuck. You probably would have been bored doing what we do. But actually, in reality, like I probably would have been so content doing what they were doing that I wouldn't have tried to do anything else. And then like I wouldn't have been able to go where I've gone in my life since then, which at this point has been years removed since that situation. And I'm so happy that I didn't end up in that group, not because of anything against them. Actually, I love them. But that being said, it changed my life. It opened a trajectory that even though I thought at the moment it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, it was actually exactly what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough when those ego reminders get you. You know, even if you have kind of the overarching perspective in hindsight, it's fucking tough, when you are denied something you think that you thought you were good enough for,
or like something that you think is owed to you. Like,
exactly.
It's like, I mean, nothing's owed to you, people. I'm just letting you all know nothing is owed to you. And even if you work hard, you still might not get stuff, but create things out of the things that you don't have. Like, I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
Just keep being as honest. Like, I mean, if people told me stuff like that when I was younger, like I would be so happy. Like, I just want to let people know, just keep being yourself and trust your friends. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, I wouldn't be anywhere if I didn't have my friends.
And be there for your friends. Yes, I mean.
Oh my God, 1,000%.
I know you've talked about this, but I play in the band Eve 6, and for the first 2 months of me playing in the band, which is not that long ago, 3.5 years ago, I was sleeping on a friend's couch, and everyone's like, "Dude, you blah blah blah." I'm like, yeah, I'm in the band that you recognize now, but I'm still looking for a place, and
Yeah,
I'm on the
exactly.
couch. So it's like and that friend, yeah, I owe him a lot. So
No, exactly. I have a friend named Mark Anselm, who, he put me up for a while I was trying to figure out my stuff. I mean, I was, and then even at certain points, I was basically homeless for a while, and
sure.
and him and a few other people, but he was the one that kept me like alive for a good second, and I owe so much to him. It's crazy. Thank you, Mark. Even though I don't think you're gonna hear this, but thank you so much.
I think what a lot of people need to hear too is allow people to help you. I think that's a big thing for me. Is I sometimes think, no, the starving artist, the miserable, blah blah blah. It's like, if people want to help you out, accept that shit.
Yeah, I mean, what you got? Starving. I mean, there's a trope that the starving artist trope is a thing. Yes, but it's just because people aren't as honest with themselves until they're in dire situations. The truth of it is that you just have to be as honest with yourself as possible always, and then you'll be able to make art whenever. Because and that's the only reason that the starving artist is a trope.
Yeah. All right, so next one, I believe the last one, so it's going to be Onistic Modular, if I pronounce that right.
Yes.
It's that's the song. The band is Floating Points, and the album's Crush from 2019. And I'm just going to read what you wrote. So it's the synth swell to as big as they can, and the beat is staying very chill to the synth drop. So I'm going to start it at around 145, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah.
I want to make a mashup of just all the excited sounds you're making. Yeah.
Dude, man, I mean, yeah. I mean, Floating Points is he's one of my favorite modern electronic producers. I mean, I believe he just put out a record with Pharoah Sanders. And I've actually been like kind of holding off on listening to it because I've had a few friends tell me that they've like listened to it and they had to like give themselves like 10 minutes of silence afterwards because it was like so spiritual. And I was like, oh man, I need to give myself a space to like listen to it without doing anything else. So that's what I'm planning on doing. But he I've been listening to him for a long time, since like 2009 or something like that. But this one of the things that I love about him in general is that the way that he shapes everything, but the way drums happen in his tracks are sometimes it's a little crazy. Like how do you create that texture? How do you emulate that on an acoustic kit, you know? And at least for me, like that is something that I like, at least at a certain point I was working on quite a bit. And it wasn't, and how do I use that in other contexts? It's not electronic music, you know? Which is, you know, yeah, I mean, and I work really, I actually kind of Like most of the thing that people hire me for now, which is kind of strange, is basically they're like, oh, you just make stuff kind of like weird and kind of left. And I'm just like, I'm literally just pulling from other musical styles and putting it into this style, but with different sounds in order to fit the thing that we're doing, you know? And I think
don't play that down. I mean, you do it very well. You know, you said the word just in front of it, but I would say that some people would try a long time to do what you do well.
I appreciate that, but I think that one of the things is that just more often than not, I realize that, and it is kind of a recent realization, is that people, a lot of drummers or musicians in general, don't listen to a lot of music outside of what they want to be doing. And that's not the point of music, you know? Like, I feel like even, you know, for example, like I love electronic music and I have toured with some electronic artists and I really love doing that thing. I don't choose the music that I'm playing based on genre. I choose the music I play based on if I think it's a good song or if the artist is doing something special. That's sort of how I choose stuff. So it's never based on, oh yeah, I really like when I started playing with Portugal, it wasn't like, oh yeah, like I love rock music. I haven't done a rock thing in a while. I want to play with a rock band. I was like, no, Portugal. Like when I got that call, Portugal's like was one of my favorite bands back in the day. Like it was definitely one of those things where, like I was like, yeah, of course I'll do that. Like I love that band, but like then at the same time, like I was touring with this guy Peter Bradley Adams for a long time. He's like a really quiet songwriter dude, and like the reason that I played with him was because like his music spoke to me, and I felt like I could be as creative. I felt like it was one of the more creative gigs that I could do because there's any choice I made in the music was drastic. Like it had to be, because any note that I played was a huge choice because the music was so quiet and soft and slow that any choice has huge implications for like what the emotional weight of the song is going to be. So like that, but like because his songs were so good, I didn't have to worry about it too much. All I had to do was like, okay, I just have to be present and I have to create whatever emotional context this song needs, you know? I don't know. But that's I hope that makes sense with the floating point situation.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. If you want to play a certain genre, don't, like if folk rock, say you love the band Real Estate or something, it's like, don't just go and listen to Laurel Canyon stuff. Listen to floating points and see what you can bring into a singer-songwriter gig, you know, and like rhythms or just arrangement stuff, what they're doing.
Oh man,
you know,
I feel like that's one of the biggest things. It's like, when people, what makes a musician valuable? Like this is a question that I think of often, and the only thing that makes a musician valuable really is their ears, like because like you could play all of the licks all day. But if you don't know how to use that stuff in context, I mean, licks kind of suck in general. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone, licks suck. You could practice that stuff all day, and it's just going to come out as like vomit over the thing that you're doing. The thing that you have to like practice, I guess, is not really licks. It's more, and this is just my opinion. Like I said, I'm no expert, but is practice how to speak on your instrument, how to get your point across, how to pull the emotion out of the one snare drum note. Like, how do you do that? And I can't do that totally yet, but I've been working on it for a long time. And I feel like that's the only thing that really gives me value in a pop, like I work primarily in pop music, and the fact like people are just like, you know, a lot of people that I hear in the same space that I am in, like they don't think about things similar to me, which is okay. That doesn't bother me, but it definitely gives it a different weight. And I'm not saying that like the weight that I'm imposing on it is more or less, but it gives it a different feeling. Every point of view is valid. That's like, but you have to like understand that and like understand what you bring to the table.
I love that.
And and that what I bring to the table is that I care a lot.
That's a good opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how else to, you know, say that, but it's true. I mean, just kind of true.
Well, Aaron, I think I've taken up enough of your time, and I think you've given enough people enough little sound bites that will probably mean just as much to them as Mark's did and Chico's did to you. So thanks for hanging out, man.
Oh, dude, of course. I'm always trying to talk to people, especially after COVID.
I know. This is the most I mean, I'm forced to like have a new interaction with someone once a week, and it's been a godsend.
Oh man, that's so good. Yeah, man. Well, what you got? Thanks for having me on, and I hope anybody I hope everybody's gotten something out of this.
I guarantee they have. And real quick, I mean, I know that your Dave McKay thing just came out today, but is there anything else that you do want to do some promotion on just to get people's awareness out?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be putting out I'm saying this very tentatively, but it's happening. I'm putting out a single at the end of next month. It's going to be called, I'm not even going to tell you the name, but what you got? Yeah, I'm putting out a single at the end of next month, so keep a lookout for that. And of just like my own, I'm putting out after that, a little EP might be coming out, you know, into the summer. But yeah, I mean, I just keep a lookout on, I guess, my Instagram, and I'll definitely be talking about it there.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I will put all this in the show notes, and it was great talking to you, man.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I will let you go, but let's chat soon, dude.
All right, talk to you soon, dude.
All right, see you, man.
Bye.
And that's the show. Be sure to subscribe, and if you're listening on a platform that allows for ratings or reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, which means the show will get better and bigger, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'd be an OG listener that could brag to all your friends. Anyways, also, why don't you go ahead and check out bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all the socials. Just search for @BigFatSnareDrum and you will find it. This show is edited in part using iZotope RX8 audio editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. Bye.